these are wide. You can tell by how little room there is left right there between the tire and then the rollers. There's more on that side than on this side. Pretty wide and low. This thing's barely even lowered, and the gas tank is that far from the pad eye that the strap connects to. They're low. Hair's great. Oops. Igor and Tanner helped me get this thing done this morning. We did a bunch of it last night. All we had left was the injectors this morning, the wiring for the injectors. We did all the hard parts last night, and and one of the hoses. So got the injectors and the hoses done, and unfortunately, it's running a little bit like butt. And I don't know why yet. I'm trying to figure that out. The idle control is absolute ass. And I really thought that I got everything done. When you do a larger throttle body, there's a bunch of shit you got to set up in the computer, and you got to do stuff for injectors, obviously. But it's OEM injectors, so the data is pretty well established. It wasn't perfect because the axes are very different between this old ECU and the ECU that the LS3 ECU. Reaching that for my OBD here. So that's a little bit different. So there was some interpolation errors, especially because this ECU won't even allow me to use a small enough number in some areas. The resolution, we talk about resolution a lot on my channel. The resolution is not ideal. It's not actually high enough to put the data in for the injectors that are in it, which is frustrating because, oh cramp, oh yes, anytime you can't put the numbers that you need to put in, it's frustrating. And the early ECUs and all the Chevy ECUs really, they have limits, hard-coded limits built into the ECU. So with certain maps and tables and things like that, you can't change the axes, you can't change the range. I mean, you can in some cases, and you risk blowing up the ECU, and that's never good. Nobody wants to break an ECU, right? So that's one of the big challenges with the C5 is the old ass ECU. All right, turn this around. And again, I'm doing portrait here because it allows me to flip the camera back and forth, so I can make ugly faces and then, back and forth like that. So I'm gonna actually change this car to something else. I'm gonna get to a C6. This is the comparison I'm looking at. I'm just comparing stock values for the throttle control and the injectors. It's very interesting too. I'm not sure whether it's HP tuners that fucked it up or what, but here's an example. So this is the idle electronic throttle control area scaler. This value is used to convert the desired effective area in square millimeters to desired ETC percent. So the throttle percentage, how far open it's going to be. Used for electronic fitted vehicles. Like, okay, of course. So this number is 4,725 point a whole bunch of fucking zeros. Okay, so 4,000 something square millimeters. Sure, that makes sense, right? I could buy that. But then you go to the C5 ECU and you go to the same thing, idle airflow, and you go to area scaler, and we go, okay, let's see here. Area scaler, this value is used to convert from the desired effective area in square millimeters again to the percent. So it's literally the same description, but the number is 0.04. So, what the fuck, right? Where is the scaling issue? What is the scaling issue, right? And unfortunately, as somebody who's using the software, you're left just to fucking guess. So that's frustrating. It's that kind of stuff that you got to deal with a lot with some of these softwares, especially HP tuners, where the description and the map don't match completely. The function does, but then they tell you, oh, it's square millimeters, when it actually obviously can't possibly be square millimeters. Unless the description is wrong. This is millimeters per percent throttle opening or something along those lines. And that one is total available, and then it's divided off of that. Well, if that was the case, then the description should say what it is. Or perhaps this one is actually in square centimeters, and this one's in square millimeters, and in that case, well, it's off by a much larger factor than it would be. That'd only give me 4 or something, right? So that's not going to work. And actually, with this car, the default one was 20255, if I recall correctly. Let me just double check. I've been fucking with it because you got to change it because I put a bigger throttle body on here. Unfortunately, when I put what I thought was supposed to go on there, it didn't behave quite right. So let's see. I got a lot of fucking GM stuff in here. Obviously, where's my bone stock one? I mean, I didn't fuck with it until this last one, but I might as well get the bone stock one anyways. I must have passed it. Yeah, I passed it. Now I'm at my CTSV. Oh, actually, the CTSV had the same one because it's an LS6, so that would have been fine too. I'm just gonna go to my previous ones anyways. There we go. The scalar was, yeah, 255. So that's what it is with the factory. What were they, 76? I forget. They're small. And now I got a 90 on here. So in theory, I can multiply this times, or I can take 76 divided by this. Is that right? No. I would take this times 76 and then convert that over to what it'd be for 90. Get the ratio. Find out what multiplier they're really giving us. So like you can do an equivalency like 76 over this is equal to 90 over the other one. Do some algebra and see what the other one would be. That kind of thing. But you know, as you can see by all this green here, I've been fucking with everything today. All of these were adjusted today in an effort to get this thing to freaking idle. Although I don't remember adjusting the rolling idle speed one. That's really bizarre. I didn't do that today. I did that previously, apparently. Anyways, so what we're going to do today, I converted to speed density because I was trying to figure out if the problem I was having was related to the speed density or to the mass airflow sensor, or the problem I was having related to the injectors, or it was related to the throttle body, or what. So I went to speed density, but I don't want to tune it in speed density. Because if you've been on my channel before, you know that I've said numerous times that speed density isn't necessarily better. Speed effective area max. Idle effective, oh, that's max effective area for idle. Then it isn't necessarily better, right? Mass airflow is infinitely more accurate, and speed density is an estimation, or the volumetric efficiency from a speed density is an estimation, and so I wanted to get it an actual mass airflow reading. Also, if you change two components, one being injectors, one being MAF, then any error that's in the final tune, you don't know if it's from the injectors or from the mass airflow sensor. Well, since my mass airflow sensor hasn't changed and my injectors have, I want to go back to the MAF and ensure that there's no error. If there's an error, I want to fix that in the injector scaling. Earlier I mentioned that there were interpolation issues between the newer ECU, not this one, but the newer one that had these injectors that came from, this is their LS3 injectors, and this ECU. So there's going to be an error, and I want to minimize that error first before I get rid of the mass airflow sensor and go and start working on a VE map. So right now I got a really generic VE map because currently, like I said, it is in speed density. I put it there just to, so this is basically the stock VE map with a very small change done to it right there. So that's basically the stock VE map. I think the stock VE map falls a little harder, and I added some before when I did the tune with the bigger cam, and I changed the shape a little bit, and I put the bigger cam in it, but overall it's, well, you can see it right here. There it is. That's the difference from before the cam and no cam. So some changes were made before when I put the bigger cam in it, and the heads and everything else. And those are the two maps before and after. So, and all I fucked with today was just over here in this corner in the idle area, to try and get the idle and recover. So what it's doing is this. That's good. Little dip, not acceptable. But check this out. Well, that one was good. Okay. And that's another issue too, right? Like, when it's not consistent, that's just straight annoying. Well, earlier it was so bad it would freaking die. Now it's not dying, right? So, like, what the hell? Yeah, it's annoying. Alright, so I'm going to check my throttle one more time, see if there's any settings that are the same that can cross over. Because unfortunately, like I said, there's definitely some issues. That's desired area. That's how much I want this thing to be open when I have my foot in a position. You see here, it's really odd how restrictive they have it in stock form. I mean, they've got 22% of your foot gives you 2% on the throttle. I don't think that's right, because I tell you for certain that I get way more than 2% throttle at 25% input on my foot. This car is never, you know how slow that would be? That'd be so slow. That's definitely never been the case. Yeah, I don't know, it's a weird one. Max rotation. Alright, I'm not limited to anything. I can go full throttle whenever I want. That was at RPM. Now this is via pedal position. Obviously, if my accelerator is at 10, even letting it go to 33 is pretty aggressive. Now this one's got this big warning on here. Modify this table at your own risk. Incompatibility with the calibration with this vehicle's TAC module may render the PCM permanently inoperable. That's a scary warning, isn't it? So I haven't fucked with it, and maybe I need to. Airflow, electronic throttle. Yeah, that sucks. The newer ECUs are just so much more stuff, but also very different that you can't just copy shit directly over from the newer calibrations. Alrighty, so let's go back to this now. Alright, so with HP tuners, the cool thing is if you want to change an OS, you go in here and you can change the OS. Now, there's nothing available. That's because this one's already been patched. So what I have to do is I have to open an older tune. So we'll do this one here. This is the one I did earlier before I went speed density, which has a lot less idle changes to it too. A lot of the stuff is no longer there. Then you go to OS and you have these modifications. You can go speed density 2 bar or 3 bar, 1 bar MAF enhanced. So 1 bar MAF, that's factory, right? That's what this thing comes from the factory. Enhanced though, RTT, real-time tuning. It's kind of cool. That's just sort of like Cobb's real-time tuning, only because it uses the RAM on this old-ass ECU, the amount of things that you can change is really small. And because it's so small, what they did, I have this one currently enabled, enhanced RTT for speed density. But on this ROM, I'm going to go back to this, but enable real-time so I can do it. But anyways, it's so small that what it does is only allows you a certain amount of area, or a RAM memory, I should say. Boy, I'm really fucking this up. Multitasking's hard. I have a penis. MAF, RTT. I'll do that. Okay. There's only so much RAM available, which is I can only store so many tables and maps at a time that the ECU can refer to. So basically, in normal operations, there's the flash table, which is what's on the ROM that the ECU uses during normal operations. But when you put a real-time tuning patch on an ECM, what it does is it has a redirect, and they're saying, hey, check the RAM for that value. And so instead of going off the flash ROM image for that data, you go to the RAM. Now, if you only have so much room, then you're limited how many maps you can do. So what they did, which I think is really smart, and I kind of wish Cobb would do this too, is they let you select what it is that you want to tune. So in this case, real-time tuning is disabled, but now I can change that. I can adjust my VE, spark, my MAF curve, my power enrichment. Turn that off so my headers get hot. Or I can do an idle, IAC, and bass spark tuning, or I can do O2 sensor knock and throttle tuning. So you can select which of these you want to do, and then when you go into the scanner, you click real-time tuning, and it brings up what tables are available, and then you can select a little button that tells you use this table. So we're going to do that, but unfortunately I have to do a right entire, and that's kind of scary with these things because it can lead to a bricked ECU, and nobody wants to do that. So this here should be really close to being already set with the old map. So I'm going to enable this immediately for idle stuff. And then we're going to save that. And then we're going to do a right tire, and we're going to cross our fingers. Unless you don't like me, then you're over here poking a voodoo doll. It's a laptop made out of freaking the hair off of a dog and that kind of shit, chicken bones, and hoping that my ECU bricks and I get a failed flash. So we're going to do this. I have to do right entire because I'm doing a different, it says it's brickable. This stream could be really short or it could be really long. We're going to find out here. So if you fail a right entire, the ECU is a brick or a paperweight. With right calibration, you're only overriding the section of the ROM that has been changed, and that's standard for most reflashing things. Even when you upgrade the firmware on your motherboard or your video card or whatever, typically you're only doing a write of the blocks that are different. So normally if you do the right calibration, it's only doing a different, the blocks are different. Right entire, however, it erases the whole ROM image and then you write the whole thing from scratch. So if you lose communication during that, then you lose all like what's the best way? The reference points and the communication protocol. That's the easiest way to say it, which will cause it to fail, and then you can no longer address it again because those parts that were in the ROM before have been erased. So it's dangerous to do. So never do a right entire unless it instructs you to do so. But in this case, yeah, I don't agree. But if you're doing a whole logic change, then you got to do a right entire. So to address what you said that the scanner seems leaps and bounds above the cob thing. Not really. I mean, yeah, it's got some histograms and shit, but it is clunky as fuck. Holy shit. The scanner that comes with HP tuners is so clunky, and the numbers are often not even correct. A lot of the PIDs and stuff are improperly scaled. You know, like some of these ECUs, full throttle is 84%. That's actually full throttle. Shit like that, that's super annoying. It's just crazy clunky. I mean, yeah, I got some squiggly lines and some shit like that, but I don't even like it, honestly. I'd take the cob thing over it any day. I can make a histogram. You know, like you can take an Excel file and you can reference points and make your own histograms and shit. Like, I don't really like the engineer's logger. It sucks. Yeah, it's all I do is multiple cars, right? Yeah, the histograms are easy to use, sure. I mean, they're freaking automatic anyways for the most part. I just don't find the system, I don't find the features it has very beneficial. You know, that's not great. Let's see. Okay, so now we're in. All right, now we're back to math. Okay, so we're gonna go to the scanner now. And I don't like this either. I do not like the way they do the real-time tuning. It's fucking lame. For one, I gotta now go to the scanner to do it. It doesn't go through the normal software. And you can connect to the card and start streaming data, but don't do that first because then reading the RAM takes forever because you're sucking up bandwidth. So here, once you connect it, then you go to real time and you can see what tables you have available. So here I have target idle speed. Well, I know where I want my idle, it's where it is now. So idle airflow versus coolant temp. That should be good. The engine ran really good before, and I did change the intake manifold and I changed the throttle body, but overall the engine shouldn't need more air to idle, right? Displacement's not changed. The only thing that changes the plenum volume, and the plenum technically probably provides a lower VE, not a higher VE, but for some reason the thing doesn't like to idle very well. IAC steps versus desired. So this is where it is even though the throttle is the idle control, this is basically saying, where are we gonna, okay, so let me back up. The way these work is they assign a range of TPS operation as idle control range. Like the max you can use, the minimum you can use for idle control. So out of that, there's so many positions in between, and that's like your steps essentially. And so this is the steps versus the desired area. Base spark versus air mass. This thing shouldn't need a whole bunch of different timing. Maybe a smidge because I lowered the VE with a bigger plenum and larger runners. Maybe a little bit of timing, but it's already pretty aggressive in timing. Base spark versus air mass. Oh yeah, one's in drive, one's in park. Overspeed. Now this is kind of handy. Overspeed and underspeed. When you're above and below your target, it's going to naturally use timing to help stabilize the RPM. Unfortunately, with the way this thing has been running and idling, nothing I've done has made a difference. And I have added tons of timing, I've pulled timing, I've added fuel, I've pulled fuel, I've opened the throttle more, I've added more idle air, I've done stuff that's in the real-time section, I've done stuff that's in the hard flash, and the symptom has not changed at all, and that's really bizarre about it. And you normally think, oh, maybe it's got a vacuum leak, but the air-fuel trims are spot on. There's no issue with the trims. It's behaving, really close. I did, however, change the injector scaling earlier, just because I wanted to do a quick change across the whole map. I went down 5%, and it's not accurate because the injector scaling is 5% bigger than what I have it set at now. So I will be changing that. Oh, actually, it's back to normal here, isn't it? Because this is the older map. Yeah, it's back to normal. Okay. So that's good. You got the stock one. Stock injectors. Just verify that my brain is correct. Yeah. Okay. All right, good. So it's back to the old injectors. So now that I pulled up the real-time stuff, what I did without saying anything is I hit this little play symbol, and the play symbol says use RAM table. And that's that RAM table I was telling you about, where it addresses the RAM instead of the flashed map. This says use flash table. So what they're saying is play, which means allows me to real-time tune this area, and then I can choose not to use it anymore. Now that's all fine and dandy, but the problem is when you hit this, like these changes aren't permanent, right? And they're not even saved in your normal map. So if you don't remember to select this map and copy it over and put it in your map over here, your shit's gone forever after you disconnect. And I don't like that. I like the Cobb stuff. When I change something in the real-time maps, it is changed in the file. As soon as I hit save, it's changed. Here, I have to go through, oh yeah, I gotta select this. Let's do this. I gotta copy it. I go over here, find the map again, paste it, and all that shit. It's just stupid. There shouldn't be all these extra steps. The Cobb one, when you change it, bam, it's done. And I definitely prefer that. Yeah, it does kind of suck. It's silly. Also, because if you hit stop here, it defaults back to the other stuff. This stays. I think it does. Let me double check. I always forget. ECU Tech does that too. ECU Tech, when you hit stop, then it defaults back to the other stuff as well. So they have a similar scheme in that. That's something that Cobb definitely does better than everybody. I'm just gonna do a gross change right here and hit ×2. Okay, so that all went double. I'm gonna stop. Okay, so it stayed in this map, but it's not in the tune, right? It's on this screen. That's the only location it's at right now. So I'd have to go into here and add that change to the tune, whatever map that was. Oh, effective area. And I really hate the way they have this set up. I don't like Engineer's format. Yeah, there's buttons and stuff here, but I just don't like them. I don't like the way it's set up. I prefer many other systems' way of of separating out the functions and stuff. But that's just me. That's a personal preference thing. It's it's irrelevant whether I like it or not. It's like ECU Tech. I can't stand ECU Tech software and shit. But that program's been around so darn long, it's not like they can go and just change the entire thing and expect everyone to be totally fine with that, because they're used to that system, using it for 15 years or whatever. Unfortunately, it sucks. It's not great. Cobb has updated their Access Tuner Pro, and they give you the option with the little checkbox in the settings to use the different hotkeys. They went with a whole different hotkey setup, and I like that they have a new hotkey setup, and I like some of the added features in the new hotkeys. The problem is I've been using Access Tuner since 2006 or so, and you know that they're ingrained in me. And learning all the new hotkeys is really hard when you're using it looks exactly the same, yet all the hotkeys are changed. I tried it for like a week and I just lost my freaking mind and went back to the old way. Just I think it's got a little more stuff. I don't think I've ever seen race. I've only seen pro. So it's the same shit though. Obviously with mine, I have access to all of the models and years and everything. I don't know, usually race is only married to one. So I have no idea if it's the same for you, but when this program boots for me, I have all the years and models and makes everything available for me to open first. I don't know if race is like that or not. I think it'd be weird if they gave you race, which is only good for the one car that you bought it for, and then all of a sudden you have to go through all the different makes and models and shit. But I don't know, I haven't used it. But it's the same thing. Tables on the left, folders, maps on the right. I like the autographing. Any other maps other than my own? Right, exactly. Yeah, whereas this one I can go through and I can, well, obviously you can open tunes. I did that wrong. I should have hit G. I can go Control G, that's change ECU. On the old hotkeys, I think it's like F3 or something on the new hotkeys. And then I select all the different formats, customs, all different models, markets, years, etc., transmission types and all that. Or you can try and find it in this list here if you don't like selecting stuff. And this is just for Subaru. I have also for well, everything Cobb does, right? GTRs, Porsche, VW, BMW, Ford, Mazda, Subaru, etc. No problem. No problem. Very welcome. All right, let's try this rev again. Nice. This is weird. I don't understand why this is all of a sudden working. Before I did this and it would just die. So like, what has changed from driving from my house to here? What the fuck? I mean, I'm happy, but I didn't do anything. This thing would fall on its face, and sometimes it would just stall. And yet, here I am, and it's recovering perfectly. Yeah, that'd be kind of weird, having to have different executables for all different models and stuff. But I get it. It'd be really weird. Or, nope. No, I was sitting in my garage in neutral, just sitting there revving it, and it was fucking falling on its face. Okay, well, yeah. So I guess I should change this now to VE so we can do some polls and shit, right? All right, back to this. So I want to do VE and power enrichment because we're going to do polls on this stuff. So VE Spark, MAF calibration, and power enrichment are the 4 modes in this mode that we can tune. So let me save that. Got disconnect from the ECU. Oops, that's the wrong button. It was a red stop, which the red button would be stop. That's actually record. This is what I want. Disconnect there. Go to this guy. Now we're not going to write in tire anymore. We're just writing calibration because we're not changing the whole thing. We're just changing this parameter. So now this is a safe flash. The chance of bricking the ECU is very low. In fact, it's not even possible, I don't think. Of course you can't look at locked maps, that's the point. ATR is not so you can copy someone else's tune. That's the reason why a lot of tuners use COB, is because they have security. This is my shit, you know, it's my IP, not somebody else's. So, in fact, I got another guy got started tuning in this area by ripping off my maps off open source cars and then selling them to people as their tunes. And then if they had a car had a problem, he would be like, "Oh, well, that's technically Dominic's tune. He's the one that screwed that tune up." I'm like, "You motherfucker! Like, it's on a car that one it wasn't tuned for," and all of that. So, if you have a locked map of your own map, you can't open it. If you had a locked map of your own map, like if you tuned it and locked it, you can't open it. It doesn't make any sense. I don't understand what you're saying there. If a tuner tunes it for you, fuck yeah, you can't look at it. It's none of your fucking business. Like, if I tune someone's car, that map is not yours to look at. It's my opinion that you're paying for the result, and the numbers that go into that result are none of your business. Okay, so it doesn't have locking. So if you had a Pro, you can't even open it if ATR lacks. If you had Pro, you can't open it ever in ATR. It doesn't have locking. I can open any ATR map. I have Pro, so I can open any map that race produces. Only Pro can open a locked map. Only Pro can open that own Pro's locked map. So I can't open any other tuners. Yeah. And ATR cannot, which is correct. There's no reason they shouldn't be able to. There's no reason why ATR should be able to open a locked map. I'm not following you, man. That doesn't make any sense what you're saying. Can't use ATR to open his own map. Why would I use ATR if there's a locked map? I'm a Pro. If it's locked with Pro. Like, if you want Pro, buy Pro. But all right, let's do some polls here. Oh, actually, first I gotta set the tack. Alright, gotta turn the traction control off. Cars don't like it when you spin the rear tires only and the traction control is blazing on you. Alright. Alright, so these things, I do almost all cars in fourth on this dyno because, you know, and other guys will say, oh, because it's 1-to-1. Yeah, fuck that. It isn't because it's 1-to-1. You can do whatever fucking gear you want. Modern technology is good enough to allow you to dyno a car in any gear. But the, yeah, it's like, whoa, rear just spinning, fronts aren't. How long of a burnout are you doing? The issue, ooh, that's a little bucky right there. The issue with gear selection is more about torque multiplication, not for measuring torque. That doesn't fucking matter. What it is for the ability of your car to stay on the dyno. If I did this car in second gear, the torque multiplication is so high, it would climb off the freaking dyno. Like, it would it would tug on those straps like nobody's business. And then also, the wheel speed would be so slow that the eddy brake would be less capable. Like the relative speed of the stator versus the rotor would be so low that I wouldn't have as much holding torque as I do with it at a higher speed. So one, I want the dyno to be in the correct speed range so that its eddy brake is effective. And then two, I want the torque multiplication to be low enough that the car doesn't climb off the freaking dyno. But as far as it affecting the power ratings, that's purely bupkis, because horsepower is horsepower, and it's calculated by work, by how much you've done. And if the torque is twice as high and the speed is twice as low, then you've done less work in the same amount of time. So I don't know. It doesn't matter what gear you do it in, but for safety's sake, I do it in a higher gear so that the car isn't trying to climb off the dyno, so the dyno works correctly, and the dyno pull takes a longer time, or hopefully more appropriate time, because it takes a lot more force for the eddy brake to stop a car that's got 2,800 foot-pounds of torque going to the tires instead of 600, right? So I do in fourth gear in almost every car that we do for those reasons. So first thing we do in this dyno is you set it to 60. So we gotta set the speed. We go to 60 miles an hour. The dyno's gonna stop us at 60. There it goes. It's gonna stop at 60 there. And I gotta input the RPM into the dyno software to let it know what speed the engine is at. It looks like 26 something, right? But why guess? Because analog gauges aren't always that accurate when I can ask the ECU. Like, nobody knows better than the ECU what the RPM is. So now we'll do it again. Bring it back up. 27, 10 to 15-ish. Looks pretty good. All right, let's say it was 2710. 2710 we're going for. Put this down so we can put your numbers in. All right. I don't agree with you on that either, because you can still take logs. Locked or not, you can still take logs. If the time is inappropriate, it'll show up in a log. If the feeling is inappropriate, it'll show up in a log or in a gauge. If the correction's out of whack because the master scale's off, it'll show up in a log. So I don't agree with that at all. All right. That's my long-term trim going. Huge trims right here. That's some huge freaking trims. Holy crap. Let's do long-term here. I don't want average. I want last. I'm kind of curious. So it really lean right there, which is really interesting because the math did not change. Only the injectors. So apparently something's off in the injectors. And maybe whatever's off in the injectors is the reason I'm having such a problem with the recovery. 20%, now it's down to 17%. That's a big error right there in that range. Now so let me go back to that. It's one issue with using the OEM stuff, is that the data for the injectors is located in other ROMs, and if it's a different format, then you got to either interpolate or try and convert or whatever, and you're kind of SOL. Had I used the ID injectors I had at home, ID has all the data in all of the various formats, and so I could have easily just found the data in that format and done that. So here I am now. I'm in VE math power enrichment for real-time tuning. Unfortunately, I don't believe my math is suddenly 25% off. So that means it's my injectors, and my injectors are nowhere in the real-time tuning on HP tuners. That's not handy. In Cobb's system, it's very much in. Oh, that's interesting. All right, so check that out. I gave them more throttle, and my long term went from 20 25 positive to like 13 negative. In the same load and RPM. Oh, this is actually done in pressure. Interesting. And engine speed's up top. So at the same RPM and the same pressure. What does that mean? If it's the same pressure and the same RPM but a different value, that means the math is different in that area, right? So is my math scale actually off right here? So is my math actually off? I don't think so. I think what I'm dealing with is a low pulse adder situation right here. So I'm going to find out if that's the case or not. So we're going to look at my injector pulse width, which isn't fucking showing up. Thank you, HP tuners. Let's double check that. I have to. Now I want to add another. I bring the sucker down now, so I smell stuff melting because the headers don't get enough oil, air over them. All right, so we're gonna stop scanning again because I need to add a parameter on here. Yep. Unfortunately, you can't add a parameter and keep scanning. You can do that in Cobb though, which I like. Fuel, injectors, oopsie, injector pulse width. Oh, I do want to see that though. I'm kind of curious about that. Bank 1, because they're gonna be the same. If they're that far off, I'll see that in the trims. Open and close loop. I already have that stuff in there. I don't need any of those right now. Okay. Go back to scan again. All right, what's my pulse width? 2.8 milliseconds right now. Now that is on the table, the short pulse adder table, but as you see, my trim is really close. So my math, like I said, which was previously calibrated and had very, very few trims in the past. Now I get this big trim right there. So I'm in that trim right now, and I'm still at 2.5, but that's 2.5 with 25% added to it. So that means that without the trim, it was trying to do 25% less than that. And but not, what do I say, without the latency. Latency is extra. So okay, so that means in my short pulse table, around 1 point something, probably 1.8 or so, I might have something going on there. So let's go look at that real quick. Fuel. It's not KPA, right? It's not mass airflow versus KPA, because manifold pressure is the exact same in these two situations where I go from plus 25 to negative something. So it's not that. It's not offset versus volts because my battery voltage isn't changing appreciably in that area. So it's not that. Is it short pulse adder? Well, the limit is 4, and that's what the ones were in the other one. But I go back here, and it is in an area where I did have a lot of issues with interpolation. You see right here, this whole area is 456 all the way across, and it was not that on the other, on the factory data for these injectors. But for some reason, it wouldn't let me put the value that the injectors had in them before. So I'll show you what I mean by that. Go to the other one here. This is an LS3 fuel. Where'd he go? There's a short pulse adder. So what you see is that the format is different. This one is not every 0.1 seconds, but close. There's a few, the 7s. There's no 7s in here, which is weird, right? You got 6, 8, 9, 10, 11, no 12, 13, 14, 15, it's up 1.6, I'm saying anyways. No 17, 19, 21, no 12. So the 2s and the 7s are missing. Weird, right? But if you look here, we'll say 1.5. I have negative 0547. I go over here, negative 06. Because it won't let me put that number in it. 16, negative 469. Or 0469, 16, 0456. Now that's not a big difference. The other one's a little bigger of a difference. But we keep going down the line here. 18, same number. Oh, that's good. That's the same number. So it's the same amount off. 2, 21. That's an appreciable change between those two. But if you look over here, it won't let me do it. I had to stay with the same freaking value all the way to 2.4, and 2.4 is the same as that one, but it wouldn't put those numbers in there. The resolution is not there in the current coding, which is super annoying. We'll try it again. 2.3. I copied it, paste it, see what happens. Oh, look at that, it doesn't change. Well, what if I just go down with it? Well, then that's the huge change now, right? Like, it doesn't let me get in between. It just rounds to the closest one. In this case, though, it might behoove me to go to the other next rounded value there. Sorry, I probably didn't show you very good. So, anyways, someone's texting me. Let me see what Tanner's leaving me. Can I speak to the high horsepower cars and higher gears and ramp rates once more? I didn't talk ramp rates too much. I was just merely saying that I like to do it in 4th gear so that I don't have excessive torque multiplication trying to pull the freaking car off the dyno. Because it's torque that's pulling off the dyno, right? It's torque that's causing the wheel slip. It's torque that's doing all that. It's not horsepower in that regard. So I know on this dyno with a standard size tire with a 2-wheel drive car, about 450 foot-pounds of torque to the wheels, I have major traction issues. I gotta go to really sticky tire over that. And that's just where they all seem to fall, right around that range. So well, that sucks balls. I guess I'm gonna do it in the math. We'll do the math. See if we can do it in the math. Primary VE, mass airflow. All right, let's see what happens. Okay, so right now, my trim is -13. It's a big trim. And that's at 3.3 on the math. So you use the histograms here for that. Or you can just look at the trim. Like, I can look at the histogram, or I can just look over here what it is now. It's -10. That's some really funky trends going on here today. Back off the load some, the RPM. Bam, there's that switch all of a sudden. I went from rich to lean really fast. And it was like a switch. 4.65, it's a little rich. Come down here. Now it's really lean all of a sudden since our end fuel. Oh no, still rich right here. Well, this thing's switching really hard. I would think I had an injector problem or an injector calibration issue, honestly. With as whack as these readings are getting as I pass through these load cells, I would think I have an issue with that. I got these injectors straight from GM, so they shouldn't be too screwed up. But I can feel the car, which is a slight throttle change. Boom, change from a -13 to a +25. Like, see how fast that just changed? And my manifold pressure, MAF, and everything, it changes very, very little. It's just all of a sudden it's like, boom, we're hitting another zone. So that can't be answered. The question is, what's the highest horsepower your cams are going to be good for? Yeah, that doesn't exist. That's not a thing. There isn't a horsepower limit on a cam. So I can't answer that. Yeah, that's no such thing, man. I'm sorry, that's not even a. That's not. That isn't a. Yeah, that just isn't a thing. Tuners are on the East Coast. What are you looking for? Chevy, Subaru, Ford. I mean, Junior's good. Corbin's good. Mikey's good. Those ones kind of mine right now. Nothing wrong with those guys. Oh, absolutely. Yeah, of course. I mean, that's what I'm trying to do right now. I'm trying to figure out why. I mean, I haven't done a poll yet. I'm just trying to drive the car and see what's going on. Trust me, I want to do a poll. I'm just doing it now anyway. Screw it. Screw you, man. I'm doing a poll. Unless he goes really lean or something. Tell me what to do. It's my car. Just kidding. Let's see. Let's go to graph. Alright, let me clear this so I can see the AFR. Alright, sorry about that. I had to put it down because I had to use the keyboard, which requires both hands. So I'm going to start taking a log here. Stop it. And do a start. Alright, well, two problems here. The dyno is not recording the data on the screen. It's blank, so that doesn't work. And the car in fourth gear made more torque than the straps had available. The car started to climb off the dyno. So I need to close the dyno program, because that's what it fucking does when it's being a little cunt. Because Dyno Dynamics have the worst fucking software ever. Next, DynoCom. I think DynoCom's the one that's got worse software than Dyno Dynamics. So I gotta kill that and tighten the straps. It got to 304, but that's what I had to let off long before the pull was over. Let's try it again. Add a little more zoink to the straps. Oh, that got loose. Wow, I think it's so loose. Okay, well, that's really loose all of a sudden. It's weird. So the last partial run, and then we'll do the last run with the old stuff. Well, it's definitely higher than the old one by a little bit, but lower down here, which, you know, it could be a function of air fuel, or it could be a function of the manifold. I was leaner here, so it wasn't necessarily air fuel. It could be the manifold being larger. Ugh. S3s are a big cam. They don't have like any of the freaking features that mine have. Well, none. They have totally square lobes. They got a slower ramp rate. They got more lift, I guess. You know, I guess that's something. But they're just a super generic square cam. It doesn't have the lobe oiling. Doesn't have the edge treatment. The edge treatment, lobe treatment. doesn't have the different center lines. It just isn't. It isn't the same cam by any stretch. All right, let's do this again. Start the log. Oh, Jesus. I am doing too much. This thing just keeps walking off the dyno. Oh, here's that other problem I had earlier that I've been dealing with. It came back. Oh, good. So now everything's running like shit again. Here I am now with this high idle. And it won't come down. Look at this. Oh, there it goes. Finally decided to come down. I might have a defective throttle body, you know? That's very possible. I could have a defective throttle body causing issues. Because that idle hang shouldn't exist. There's all kinds of things that shouldn't exist. That is doing. I got 1 degree of spark retard up top. By up top, I mean 4,000 RPM. Let's see. Let me show you there. 4,000 RPM. I got to 4,900 before I had to let off because the car's trying to climb off the dyno again. Let's see what we got. Air fuels are, well, rich by that meaning. Of course, the narrowband's going to stay rich. Let's go look at the graph. Let's see what we got. And way less through here. Just from one pole to the next. That's weird. And 13.0 AFRs. Probably use a little more there. Whoops, this one. Shit! That's what I'm looking at. I'm seeing shit. Alright. Well, I gotta keep working on this. I need both hands to do it. I will, when I get closer to getting things dialed in, I'll fire it back up again, say hi to everybody, and show the final results and all of that. I don't have a GoPro that I can just mount somewhere and do all that shit, but I gotta get this thing strapped down better. It's trying to walk off the dyno. I gotta get, which is weird. It's got these straps on it. It shouldn't be coming off the dyno, but it's trying anyways. And then I gotta work on this. Yeah, man, thanks. Follow brake in front of the cams. Okay, is that the same mode you got pinched? Yeah, mine's already assembled in your car. Yeah. I mean, I'm sure you'll be happy with what you get. It's just not going to be as good down low as mine are, and through the mid-range. Top end, the 280s might perform better. You said they're GSE, right? Not the S3s, or did you say BC? The S3s, yeah. So the GSE S3s. I haven't tested them back-to-back on the top end. I know mine will way outperform it middle and low end. But I haven't even seen an S3 on the car in so long. I couldn't do back-to-back testing on that. But from the S2s to mine spooled way faster and made more power. So it's a significant increase over S2s. But I don't know about the S3s. I haven't put them, like I said, head-to-head yet. And the really big builds that I have my cams in aren't done yet. The one I did 500-something wheel on this dyno on 18 pounds on pump gas, that's fucking amazing, because that's like almost 600 wheel on normal everyday dynos that you guys see typically on the internet. So that's really impressive, and I'm excited to get them in more cars. Yeah, it's a big turbo. I've got them in the 64, 66. I've got them in a couple of the biggest EFRs. Yeah, other than that, it's mostly 35s and 30s, or G35s and G30s. But the 64s aren't even to the power phase yet. One's not even put together yet.
The EFR is in a setup that's going to take a while probably. Depends how Kendrick's doing on his build. I know we got to change his exhaust to fit his oil system because he's got like a crazy oil system on it. So it's there's a lot of stuff to do still with him. All right, I gotta get doing this. Thanks guys, I appreciate it for hanging out.